Hello everyone and welcome to a new review, and also a longer one than the last one. In this review, I'll be looking at Fazbear Entertainment Storage. And of course, I'll start with the positive parts of the game, like I always do, and then I'll move on to the cons of the game, which aren't that many, but they do exist. Alright, and to start off with the gameplay, I myself really like the gameplay loop with this game because it doesn't really require you to just look at one singular camera and stay camping there for an eternity. You actually need to look at multiple cameras, especially in the later nights like night 6 and 5, and that's due to the fact that those nights introduce a few new characters like the Puppet in night 5, and Fredbear, and also Spring Bonnie in night 6. And to sum it up quickly what those animatronics exactly do, I'll explain the latter two a little later, is that you have to look at certain cameras to know exactly what they're going to do and when they're going to attack. But I'm going a little quick there. We'll get onto those animatronics a little later. And I think the best place to start off with is explaining the 4 core mechanics this game basically has. Technically 5 if you count the shock mechanic, which comes in later at night 6, but I'll explain that one just a little later on in the video. First off, of course, you have the mask. You know, the classic mask from FNAF 2, which you just have to put on when certain animatronics enter your office. And specifically to ward off Toy Bonnie and Toy Balloon Boy when they enter through the vent to your left in the office, which you can just see through the cameras when exactly they're going to enter the vents and when you have to put on your mask. And the next one is in the middle of your office is the vent door at the top of your office, basically like middle top. You only use it for Toy Chica, and later on in night 6 you also use it for Spring Bonnie for when they enter, but the vent is mainly used for Toy Chica to ward her off because, to explain simply, she will enter the vent through cam 06 or 05 if I'm correct, and from there she will stick her head through the little door, and then you have to close it on her to just get her away and out of your office so she doesn't jump scare you. And later on you also use it on Spring Bonnie if you use in cam 08 specifically. And besides the main vents, you also have the side vents, which is where Mangles wanders around and tries to kill you. But it's simply, think of it like FNAF 3 vent snares where you can disable a vent and to prevent Mangle from going through that and destroying the vent. Because in the vent cameras you basically have 3 vents which keep your whole room just, you know, cooled down and doesn't make you overheat. But Mangle is out on their way. It's their sole mission to destroy those vents and just fucking kill you fully. And to prevent that, you of course have to disable the vent so she doesn't get one of her parts stuck in the ventilation shafts. And the last mechanic I would like to talk about is the flashlight, of course. The good old classic flashlight that's been in nearly every FNAF game ever. The flashlight basically serves 2 main purposes, and one of them is to see exactly if an animatronic like Toy Bonnie or Fanta or Toy BB is approaching, or to ward off Toy Freddy due to the fact that he's basically the witted Foxy of this game where you have to flash him for a few seconds to get rid of him. And that's basically all the main mechanics of the game. Of course, there's some minor ones like the control panel, but you basically only use that one to check what AM it is and how much power you have, but that's about it. And I think these mechanics are really unique and don't just make it like the 100th, oh, wait in your office and close the door when an epic spooky animatronic enters your room. Ooh. Like, it actually spices up the gameplay and doesn't just make it incredibly boring. And I think the same goes for the design of most of the animatronics, at least, as they are really different from a lot of the other fan-made water designs that other people have made. Some of them are a little less though in my opinion, like for example Fredbear and Spring Bonnie, as Fredbear kind of just looks like witted Freddy. Spring Bonnie basically just has a very long arm and that's basically it. The developer did explain in the developer notes that he did that just so people don't confuse him with Springtrap, but I myself did confuse him with Springtrap for the first time. And I honestly just think the long arm just makes him look more goofy than scary. Same also kind of goes for Toy Freddy and the Puppet, as I think they look just way too basic and way too close to the original, which kind of just makes them the most boring of the bunch. But the rest of the designs are actually really unique, and my personal favorite one is Mangle's redesign, due to the fact that, you know, the extra endos Mangle gets actually really adds to the creepiness factor and also works into the gameplay reason of like, oh, Mangle, of course, the endos get stuck in the vents. That's how Mangle basically does an Among Us and sabotages the ventilation system. And I also really like the broken Balloon Boy design. It's very, you basically cannot recognize Balloon Boy in that. I really love it a lot. Alright, now enough about the designs. Next thing I would really like to talk about is the music of the game. Like, I think the music in this game is really unique and incredibly good, as it differs from a lot of other FNAF Fangames where they have like a slow piano playing, trying to add up to the creepiness, building up the song. But the thing in this game, the songs sound like, you know, full-on techno beats. It sounds very robotic, you know. Actually, you know what? I'll play a little part right here just to show you guys what I mean. And also the extra menu music is also incredibly calming. I just really like that song, you know, it's really good background music. It's just, I like it a lot. The ambience is also a really good aspect of the game, as it isn't incredibly loud. It isn't like the FNAF 2 ambience. But it also helps in the gameplay, as this game is very sound-based, as you have to listen to sound cues to know exactly what animatronic is doing what. And not getting ear-raped actually helps with that a lot, which is what I really like about the ambience. It's very, you know, soft and not that loud at all. Alright, I think that's all I have to say about the music. The music is just incredible. I can't emphasize this enough. But the last thing I want to talk about, of the gameplay section at least, is the difficulty. This game is incredibly easy, except for the 2020 challenge is a night 6. And by really easy, I mean really easy. Like, I beat this game with near 0 deaths and only died in night 6 a few times due to how confusing the night was, and I just didn't understand what I was supposed to do. Like, don't get me wrong, the gameplay is very fun and unique, but the game itself is really easy except for night 6, but that's due to the fact that you don't get explained anything, and it's just overall very confusing. Like, you don't get any instructions on how to beat the 2 main animatronics of Spring Bonnie and Fazbear. And I'm going to explain it here, and to put it simply, Spring Bonnie can enter the office through either Cam 05 or Cam 08 through the vent. But the game doesn't tell you this, and when you die to him, all it says, it gives you a little tip, but all it says is he comes from the right. And basically, to ward him off, you just have to close the vent or just keep your cameras up if he goes through Cam 05. Now, Fazbear is a lot more easier because all he can do is just go through the vent or mess with your power, which in the first scenario, you just have to put on your mask, and in the second, you can just shock him through the control panel. Bonnie can also mess with the power, but you get rid of him the same way you get rid of Fazbear, by just shocking him. Like, overall, I think that Night 6 was the weakest point in the game due to just how confusing it was and just the little instructions you get. But I still think that the gameplay overall of the whole game is a solid 8.5 out of 10, not gonna lie. Like, it's really good. It's really fun. Alright, the next part of the whole game I would like to talk about is the story. Now, I know I usually don't talk about the story in my reviews, but I've realized that, like, the story, it kind of is an integral part of the game itself. So that's why I've decided to add a little story section to my reviews, just to explain the story and just give an overall review of it and just be like, oh, is it a good story? Is it bland? Is it not bland? And is it alright? Alright, from what I understand from the story is that our main character is a night guard in an abandoned facility with the FNAF 2 animatronics being all broken down, I'm assuming after the bite of 87. That makes the most part as they would probably be sent to a different facility, be just stripped for all of their medals, and just maybe reused for later expeditions that the FNAF franchise wants to do. And the nights are just you checking on the animatronics so they don't get tampered with, they don't get stolen, and just keeping the whole place safe. But at night 5, the phone guy says, oh, I'm gonna salvage the animatronics. They aren't even worth saving anymore. They have no purpose in life. And basically just pulling a full-on LTG and be like, hell nah, these motherfuckers gotta go. But he does say you still have to go for another night after he salvages them to check up of see if, like, everything's alright. Is everyone dead? You know, just to see if, like, oh, all the animatronics, they're salvaged, everything's aight, nothing's wrong. But guess what? In night 6, there's Fazbear and Spring Bonnie. Now, I don't know how they got into the facility, but I assume they might have been left somewhere in a back room of sorts and just forgotten about, kind of like how the secret rooms got boarded up. And in my own interpretation, after you beat night 6, you just go back, the Spring Bonnie and Fazbear animatronics both get salvaged, and you just go on with your life. Now, that's a very quick summary of what I think the lore of the game is, and I'm someone who isn't that good with lore. I'm not that good with it, so take everything I said about the lore just now with a massive grain of salt. But the story of the game is pretty good. It's not that incredibly unique, but it's also not incredibly bland and boring. It kind of just plays a background role, and the biggest emphasis is placed on the gameplay of it instead. But I would still give this game story a 6.9 out of 10. It's pretty aight. Alright, and to end the video off, I'll give the gamers the final score. I would give the full game, including gameplay, story, everything, an 8 out of 10. You can definitely tell that the game took a lot of time and effort to make, and that the game was just made with just a lot of love for the whole FNAF franchise in mind. Like, you can really see that in the dev notes, especially where it's like, oh, this project took a long time, you know? And you can definitely tell that the devs had a lot of fun making this game. But it does fall short on a few parts, but it's just made up by the really fun gameplay and mechanics. Now, I would really recommend checking out this game if you have the time. I'll just put a link in to the games page in the description. And that's all for this review. I'll see you guys probably next week. Goodbye.